Dear friends, this is Sandeep again welcoming you to my video on BluePrism Server authentication. BluePrism Server is a very important concept of BluePrism architecture and it is little complex as well. In this video series, I'll try to make it as simple as possible so that you can implement it in your lab and in your production environment very easily. We are going to learn first the concepts of BluePrism Server and the scenario where BluePrism Server is not installed. Then we will find out why you need a BluePrism Server authentication. Generally, we need it when you implement BluePrism Server in a multi-robot scenario when multiple robots are interacting with each other, when you need an enhanced security. Rather than storing your credential into a database, you are going to store your credential directly into BluePrism Server. And when you want to run your scheduler, is supported by BluePrism only when you are running it on a server rather than on a robot. Then we will one by one we will see how to configure it in your actual lab, and then we will verify whether it is working or not. First of all, let us talk about the architecture. This is a very simplified version of BluePrism non-server and a server scenario. When you install your BluePrism binaries, then you directly connect to your BluePrism studio. You log in using username and password, and in the backend it directly connects to your database like this. And when you are connected to a BluePrism server, then you first connect to your studio, which in turn calls your BP server. BluePrism server does all the authentication from the database, all the communication, and then results get back to your studio. In this scenario, if you deploy multiple robots here, they will connect to this central BluePrism server. This is the basic concept. Will come it again if required in the video. Now let us see how to practically implement your BluePrism server. We will start from scratch. First we will see what all is there into our BluePrism installation directory: program file, BluePrism limited, and BluePrism automate. You will see there is a automate. This is your BluePrism client and your BP server. This is our BluePrism server. Let us now try to connect to BluePrism directly without a database authentication, without a server authentication. Now it is saying could not connect to database default, could not connection failed exception. This is saying it because as of now my BluePrism server is down. Let us see how it looks like into the services. If you go to your services, you'll see a BluePrism server service installed, but it is in a stopped state. If you start it, you will be able to connect to your BluePrism server. Let us test it. Let me start it. It is not connecting because my configuration has been changed. Now let me try to connect you with the database authentication, and I am able to connect it. But if I sign out and to try to connect using default, it will give me an error. Right. Because my BluePrism server service is down. Now let us see what is the difference between all of these. We will go to configure. We will see there is a default connection, there is a SQL win auth connection. In this default connection, I am connecting to BluePrism server. There are 5 options. One is SQL authentication, Windows authentication, BluePrism server, then SQL HA authentication. So we are concerned with these 3 first because we have a standalone SQL installation and a BluePrism server. As in this specific scenario, we are going to trying to connect to the default one. See, default matching, and this BluePrism server, which is my host name. Let me show you. This same as this BluePrism service is down, I am getting this error. And if I go to SQL authentication, you can see I am connected to my database BluePrism database in my server, the same localhost server, and I am able to connect to this place. This is similar if I am connecting to SQL Win Authentication, then it is the same scenario of using this specific non-BP server. And if I'm connecting to BluePrism server, the default scenario, default connection, then it is a server scenario. Now let me show you how to start your service. First of all, let us see why my service failed to start. I'll go to event viewer. BluePrism logs are generally logged into the BluePrism event folder. Go to BluePrism and see the last error that has occurred. Connection not valid. Exception has been thrown by target of invocation. So there is some problem in my connection. Now let us see how to configure it. First we will open the command prompt and we'll navigate to our BluePrism installation folder. /program files BluePrism. Then we will call bp server.exe. You can see there is a default option there, and we can edit and create a new one as well. I'll click edit and see what's there in my existing configuration. It looks good, but this default is a different setting than we have just seen in your BluePrism client console. For that we need to call automate/show dpconfig, and I'll get a similar connection page, but it's a global one. So it's a default and SQL Win Authentication. These two connections are there. What we are going to do is this is our BluePrism server setting and this is our client setting. What we want to do is we want to connect our client to BluePrism server, right? This is our client. We want to connect it to BP server. So we will use default connection, but for BP server to BP database, we are not going to use default connection. We are going to use our SQL server authentication. So we'll create a new connection and we'll say BP default DB connection, let us say, and we are going to choose our SQL Win Auth connection. I will not use secure connection because we are not using any HTTPS or certificates. Make sure your disable scheduler is unchecked, otherwise your scheduler is not going to work. And you have to use your key as well. This will be the same key which you are going to use in your BP client. I'll show you. Let us create BP demo key. There are two methods available here. We will use a maximum security AES 256 based encryption standard, and will generate a key. You can see the key. This is a random key generated which is used to encrypt your credentials in your BluePrism server. You click OK and you are all set. You can optionally enable the logging as well if you want to see what is happening. Now you can save it. Configuration is saved and you can start it. Now you can see you have created a BP default DB connection and a default connection, and we are going to start with the BP default connection. I am going to start it using start button, but here you need to understand what is the difference between this BluePrism server service and a BP console. In this you can see there is a BP server service and a BP server. When you start your BP server, you get this kind of console. You generally use it for the testing purpose in the dev or test environment, but if you want to go for your production environment, you will prefer your BluePrism server service, which actually is this specific BP server service. Let us try to start it, see if it gets started easily. It says failed to start, following encryption key could not be resolved, credential key. This is a key which I have been using previously, right? And as I have changed everything, so this key is not valid. What I can do is I can log into my BluePrism using my SQL Server authentication. I'll go to system, I'll go to encryption schemes. I can see this credential key is being used. I have to change it to something else. Say I can change it to credential key, and then I'll try to start it again. I have to delete this key. Now let us start it. Now my BluePrism server is started. What was happening is this key. Let me show you what is written in any key. There are two ways when you go to a BluePrism client. There are two ways you can create a key. One is a database key and one is a server key. In that specific key which was giving me error, it was configured to use the application server, but my BluePrism server is down and my connection settings are also changed for this demonstration purposes. That is the reason it was failing, and I had to resort to delete that specific key. Now there is no such key into this. As you can see, the other one, this key is also a database key which is stored into the database. For more details on the key, I can create another video, or you can ping me. I'll let you know the further details on the specific BluePrism encryption keys and related stuff. So our BluePrism server is started. Let us sign out. This is the configuration that I was telling you in the step 4 of the verification. I'll try to connect to the default one. Let's see. Yeah, now error did not come. I'll go to connect and give my same username and password, and I'll show you the BluePrism server console itself. You will see whenever I try to sign in, you will see variables here. You will see that logs getting populated into server log, and you are connected. If you see the bottom, you will see using BluePrism server connection. Previously it was SQL server, right? Now let us try to start the same thing as a service. I am going to stop it and we'll try to start the service as well. Let's see if it works. It is failing. Let us see why it is failing. We'll close this and check again. Okay, the connection is default. Let us switch to BP default DP connection, save configuration, then close it and run it again. Okay, and this error is coming because by default it picks the default setting. What we can do is, in the default connection itself, we can specify SQL Win Authentication, and we'll save it and see whether it is working. Now it's looks good. Let us try to start it from the service. Our service is working, and we'll try to connect to our BluePrism server using server authentication. It looks like it is working, otherwise it would have given me the error straight away. Signed in as Sandeep using BluePrism server connection default. So friends, we have configured our BluePrism server. We have understood the concepts, how BluePrism client connects to your BluePrism server, and how BluePrism server is connecting to your BluePrism database. We are going to talk about multi-robots as well. As of now, we have connected only this single robot. We can connect multiple robots to this single BluePrism server, and we'll also see how scheduler works in the BluePrism server scenario in my upcoming video. Hope you have liked this concept, and the understanding and the implementation demonstration was simple enough to understand. If you liked it, don't forget to like it, and to keep yourself updated with my informative videos, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Sandeep.